In the early 20th century, on the plains of West Texas, one man had a dream to build a utopia. His story includes an undiagnosed chronic illness that was eventually cured by what we would call a crunchy lifestyle today. This led him to start a breakfast cereal empire, resulting in him becoming a multimillionaire. With his fortune, he bought land in Texas and eventually became connected to the U.S. President and businessman Donald Trump. As if that wasn't enough, his story also involves his attempts at weather manipulation. C.W. Post was born in Springfield, Illinois on October 26, 1854. He attended Illinois Industrial University, dropping out after 2 years. He then spent the next decade working as a salesman and manufacturer of agricultural machinery. In November 1874, C.W. married Ella Letitia Merriweather. Their marriage resulted in the birth of one daughter named Marjorie, who was to be his only child. After divorcing Ella and remarrying, Post devoted himself to his career and became a workaholic. It eventually became too much and he suffered a mental breakdown. He decided that moving to Texas and starting a new career in real estate development would provide him the break that he needed. Once again, though, the stress of this career proved to be too much for his constitution and he suffered a second mental breakdown. In 1891, at the age of 37, Post became a patient at the Battle Creek Sanitarium in Battle Creek, Michigan. This sanitarium was run by the Kellogg Brothers, Dr. John Harvey Kellogg and Will Keith Kellogg, who would become the founder of the Kellogg Cereal Company. The sanitarium was focused on healing illnesses through diet and exercise, a novel approach to healthcare in the late 1800s. After several months under the care of Dr. Kellogg, C.W. Post had basically been given a death sentence by the doctor, who was unable to find any successful treatment for post-chronic digestive disorder. That diagnosis was not acceptable to Post, who decided that he would devote his time to healing himself through focusing on a theory of mind over matter, which he believed led to his eventual recovery, prompting him to write several books. As a result of his stay at the Battle Creek Sanitarium, Post decided to start his own cereal company in 1895. His first product was a grain-based coffee substitute called the Postum cereal beverage. 2 years later, he introduced his first cereal called Grape Nuts and then Post Toasties. An interesting side note, Post Toasties were originally called Elijah's Manna, but after some people voiced their dislike of Post using a biblical name and said that it sounded sacrilegious, he changed it to Post Toasties. C.W. Post must have had quite a personality because he fired back saying, "Maybe no one should eat angel food cake, enjoy Adam's ale, live in St. Paul, nor work at Bethlehem Steel." Post was inspired by the work being done at Battle Creek's Kellogg Sanitarium, but some historians think he copied what the Kellogg's were doing. Either way, he developed a line of popular cereals and became a millionaire in the process. He had a fortune to spend and eventually landed on his next idea. In 1906, C.W. Post bought over 200,000 acres of ranch land in Texas. Part of the reason he chose the Texas Panhandle was for its dry climate, which he thought would be better for his health. He envisioned a utopia model town he'd named Post City. The post office opened in a tent in 1907, and by 1910, the railroad arrived, which led to an increased growth in the city. Supplies used for building the town were shipped in on the Texas and Pacific Railroad from Big Spring. Given that there were very few trees located in the area, nearly all of the lumber used to build the town had to be shipped in from other places. The Algarita Hotel, named after the Algarita bush, a shrub with little red berries and prickly leaves, was built in downtown Post City. Throughout the years, it housed various businesses, including a bank, grocery store, and a senior citizen center. The Doc Collier Drugstore was located on East Main Street. Collier & Associates purchased the drug rights from C.W. Post for $2,000 with a stipulation that no whiskey would be sold. Alcohol and brothels were banned in Post City, reinforcing the utopian ideal. Post donated land for two churches in the new city, the First Baptist Church and the First Methodist Church. Post also provided the carpets for both churches, which had been commissioned to be made in Battle Creek, Michigan. The Post-X cotton mill was built by C.W. Post in 1913 at a cost of $650,000. Post, the city of Post, is located in the Panhandle of Texas, which is known worldwide for its cotton industry. His idea for a cotton mill might have been the first of its kind in the nation. CW's goal was to bring locally grown cotton to the mill and manufacture bedding like sheets and pillowcases. That same year, CW Post Home finished construction. It was built in a California style and had 6 bedrooms and 6 bathrooms. Post already owned 2 country homes, one in Connecticut and the other in California. Unfortunately, he never occupied this home himself. In 1914, the town was incorporated and now it's simply called Post. That same year, C.W. Post passed away at the age of 59, but his town carried on. So let's take a look at the 1921 Sanborn Map of Post, Texas. You can tell based on how these streets are laid out that this was a city planned from the very beginning. Right here we have the lot that was reserved for the courthouse. It's on Main Street. North of Main Street we have the odd number streets, 1st, 3rd, etc. And south of the courthouse we have the even number streets, 2nd, 4th, etc. Going south to north we've got A Street, B Street, C Street. So that kind of gives you some orientation on how this city is laid out. Right here we've got the railroad. Going north, it goes to Amarillo and Chicago. Going south, it goes to Sweetwater and Galveston. According to this information over here, for their fire department, it was a volunteer system with 14 members. Scrolling down on the first page, we see the Post-X Cotton Mills, manufacturers of bed sheets and pillowcases. So all of these buildings are brown, which indicates that they were fireproof. What I really love about this map is that it breaks it down for the different parts of the manufacturing process. So you have the wear rooms over here, which might be for the finished product. You've got carding room, spinning room, weaving, bleaching rooms. So I just thought this was really awesome. And based on the photos we saw earlier in the video, it was a really large building. Moving on to the second page of the map, we're going to look at another thing we talked about in this video. So here's Main Streets. You've got B Streets, C Streets, then over here is Hotel Algarita. What I found interesting with this is you've got all of these stone and brick buildings over here, but this Hotel Algarita was yellow, which meant it was wood frame. So we zoom in over here. It's 2 stories. There's some stairs in the back for fire exit. And then behind it and across the alley, there's a hotel annex. Another thing we talked about in this video were the churches. So here we are looking at C, D, E streets. Here's the railroad. And then coming down here, zoom in, we have the Baptist and Methodist Church. These were both made of wood as well. They're both 1-story buildings. And I thought it was interesting that they're just on the same lot. So right next to each other, basically. And on this map, this is the 5th page of the map. I think there were only 5 pages for this map, set of maps anyway. But you can really see how this city formed in just such a grid-like formation. I mean, it's not uncommon for us to see neighborhoods like this today where they're all just in perfectly sized lots and all of the houses look the same, but this is in the 1920s. And you can see they maybe had like 2 different floor plans over here, the square version of the house and the one that's like a capital T. And they just kind of alternated, oh, here we go. They just alternated between those. There was also a boarding house up here, so probably mostly like for single men that lived there. But I think this was really interesting. They all have front porches, really nice. So these are all just the same, and I just thought that was really interesting. I got a lot of this detailed information from this book here, Images of America, Post. These books are awesome because they are normally written by locals, so they have a lot of interesting stories that aren't necessarily on the internet or Wikipedia. I also like this book because it had a lot of great photos, specifically of the buildings from the early 1900s, which was something that I really enjoyed looking at. This author also wrote another Images of America book, this one specifically on Garza County. It goes more into the history of the area and the people, starting with the Native Americans and moving into the early 2000s. Before I continued on with the rest of the story of Post, I did just want to mention this as a great resource if you would like to get more details than what I was able to cover in this somewhat short video. Another interesting bit of information about C.W. Post is that he experimented with manipulating the weather. Over a 3-year time period, he experimented with rainmaking by detonating explosives attached to kites. Of the 13 experiments he ran, it actually rained 7 times. Although some people said it was just that time of year for random rain showers anyway, so it was likely to rain regardless of Post experiments. He eventually gave up on this experimentation since it did not result in consistent rainfall. C.W. Post's only child, Marjorie Meriwether Post, inherited his food empire once he passed away. She transformed it into the General Foods Corporation and became one of America's wealthiest and most influential women in the process. Marjorie built the legendary Mar-a-Lago estate in Palm Beach in the 1920s. It cost millions of dollars to build, and it was among the most expensive homes built in the U.S. After her death, she willed the house to the U.S. government as a presidential retreat, but Congress returned it to the Post Foundation in 1980, and 5 years later it was sold to Donald Trump, who turned it into the renowned Mar-a-Lago resort. Marjorie Meriwether Post had a statue made in honor of her father that sits on the courthouse square facing Main Street. The text reads, C.W. Post, pioneer, industrialist, inventor, founder of Post Texas in 1907. The life of this adventurous man summed up in just a few words by his only child. From a cereal magnate's vision to a thriving West Texas community, from a model town to an international estate, the legacy of C.W. Post continues. Thanks for taking this journey with me from Battle Creek, Michigan to Post Texas to Palm Beach, Florida. I had a great time sharing these stories with you. Make sure you subscribe to the channel so you can be notified the next time I publish a video, and be sure to check out my newsletter listed in the description below. It has behind-the-scenes information and extra details that I can't always fit into my videos. It also provides an update on my shop where I sell canvas wraps and framed prints of the Sanborn maps I feature on this channel. As always, thanks for stopping by.